Is your marketing based on assumptions? You think you know why someone downloaded your lead magnet? You think you know what problem they're trying to solve, or you think you know what they need to hear next? Well, but your prospects already know the answers to all of these questions. They are ready to tell you, and your marketing is set up to never ask. Moni Oloyede has spent years helping small business owners like you stop guessing and start collecting the information that actually matters at the exact moment someone raises their hand. What she has learned will change how you think about every lead in your pipeline. This is what your prospects are dying to tell you. And this is Strategy Talks. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Here's your host, Dorien Morin-van.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Strategy Talks. We are episode 175, which is pretty incredible. We're 4.5 years in to Strategy Talk. So welcome. If you're new here, just so you know, my name's Dorien Morin-van, as the song already told you. And every week I host an expert guest. And we talk about the things that matter. And this season 5, is about content strategy for small teams. So I have an excellent guest today, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But before we do, I want to welcome everybody who's with us live, whether you're live on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. I want you to know that we really care that you're here. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. If I see them, if StreamYard will show them to me, we will answer those live on air. And if we see them afterwards, we will answer them later. If you're listening to Strategy Talks as a podcast, welcome to you, and want to make sure that you know you are very much appreciated. So I'm going to bring onto the stage with me my new friend, Moni. How are you today, Moni?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we were just trying to figure out while we were in the green room how we got connected, and we think it was our friend Michelle Raymond. So shout out to Michelle.
Michelle.
You were on a show, I was on a show, and I was like, I'm ready for some new guests. Introduce me to some new peeps, and she did. And so today we're going to talk about what your prospects are dying to tell you, which I'm very excited about this conversation because I don't know. We always think we know what they want to tell us, and then really it isn't. So how do we get it out of them? Why do we stop listening? So let's start with that. You've built your whole approach around this one idea, Moni, that prospects are already telling us what we need to know, and we are not listening.
No.
Where did that conviction come from, and why are we not listening?
I spent a good it'll be 20 years next year, 2027, in marketing. It's the only career I've ever known. My entire professional career has been in marketing. And I really started my career in marketing operations. So on the tech side of marketing, known for analyzing data and doing a bunch of data analysis, but still not getting the results that we were promised out of the marketing. I just could never figure it out. Why is this never working? And I went to Johns Hopkins University for grad school, got a master's in marketing, and realized we weren't doing marketing. We were sending content. We weren't actually doing marketing. Part of that marketing was market research, understanding your customer. We kind of did customer discovery. We never actually did full-on market research to understand the psychology, the emotions, the drivers, the motivations, all those sorts of things. So I have a deep passion around market research, and really a lot of the issues that businesses have with their content, with their marketing in general, is because they didn't ask anybody. They didn't talk to anybody with any sort of depth. And when they do talk to people, they don't ask the right questions, and they don't really gain the right insights, the right conclusions from the results that they get. So there's all kinds of a myriad of issues happening.
All right. So when we talk about market research or, researching customer, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah, so a lot of people interview their customers, which is okay, but those people already bought from you, so there's already a slight bias there. And they tend to want to kind of protect your feelings, right? Our customers are kind of like our friends, and they want to kind of lean into the things that we already sort of know and understand. So that's kind of step one. We talk to our customers first. We don't talk to what I call the audience, and I don't use prospects. I say audience because the audience is encompassing. Audience can be prospects, but they also can be partners. They can be just fans and supporters. They can be stakeholders. There's all type of people who can support, uplift, elevate our business that don't expressively buy from us. So we don't talk to our audience, the people around us in our ecosystem. But you do need to talk to people who are in your ICP, right? That does help. And just do it just to gather information, not to pitch them down the line. Like if you were just kind of have a friendly conversation and ask them questions, what would that be, right? Even in just regular conversation, things come up, issues come up that, you wouldn't normally get if you were just kind of trying to force a conversation to a sale. So like the first thing is one, talk to your audience and then your ICP, and then just kind of have a very loose but structured conversation in the sense that like you're still trying to get what's the emotion behind, what's the motivation behind, what are the issues underlying that they're not saying, those sorts of things.
So let me ask a practical question, and this is a side question. That's not on my script in my run a show. But when you say, talk to your ICP, talk to your audience, and I'm assuming in a one-on-one setting, is that an appointment you make with somebody? Is that hey, I'm meeting you at a network event, or this is hey, we're in a board meeting and I want to know from all the stakeholders, like I'm just asking for practical advice on this. How do you approach this usually?
It's a fantastic question. It's one I get a lot. And here's the thing, Dorien. All of the above is the answer to that. All of the above, right? When you kind of know what you're trying to then understand, all good market research starts with a market research brief, right? We need a hypothesis to start with, kind of stating our assumption here and then going off of that. You kind of have a directive of where you want the conversation to go. So that can happen in a networking event. Like you said, that can happen in the casual walking down the hallway. That can be in a scheduled appointment, a one-on-one of which we talk for 30 minutes. And I'm just trying to get a general understanding of you and your pain points and things like that. All can work.
All right. And then taking it one step further, I'm assuming that you need you need to talk to a certain number. Is there a magic number? Is it 2 people, 5 people, 10 people? Is there a time when you're like, okay, I'm starting to see a pattern? Is that the time that you stop? How do you measure?
Yeah, good question. So to follow up to your previous question about like how do you kind of get this information, the means doesn't matter, but you do need to record, right? Like that is part of the conversations. You do need a means of record. So if that's sort of you kind of walking away from the conversation and taking notes, if that's you recording the conversation, get permission. Don't record people without their permission. You do need a way to kind of gather that information so you can analyze it later. There is no magic number, but I feel like the base is 10 people because you are looking for patterns. That is the thing that you're trying to glean out of it. And you also, in a market research brief, need to define what success looks like. Is it 60%? Is it 80%? Right? That's going to have to kind of be up to you. I'm looking for, I'll know this is true if I see this pattern behavior, these signals, this line of communication. And if I see this 80% of the time, then I'll say that that's success, that kind of thing.
All right. That's fair. That makes sense. So we stated earlier, the most small business owners think they know their audience. What are they basing that on? Why are we thinking that we know our audience? And what in that thinking is skewed? Because obviously that's wrong.
Yeah, again, it's just a lot of assumptions. We deal with small business owners. Well, I deal with business owners all the time. Not even small. It's not even, categorize it. But, the common known is like, my audience is everybody. And that's the quickest way to tell me you don't know your business.
We were talking about that in the green room. Yes, I get that all the time too. Everybody was like, no, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
It doesn't work like that. I always give the example of like Apple. Like, can everybody buy an iPhone? Sure. But when you look at their conference and like who actually promotes their products, it is a type of person, right? Like, it is a specific audience. And what happens is you kind of cultivate those people, evangelize them, and then they tell everybody else. So that's kind of how that works. So you do need a target audience, and I focus on identity and behaviors, psychology, and culture, sort of the areas that I focus on, because a lot of times you focus on demographics, firmographics, industry, those sorts of things, and roles. And there's not a bad place to start. I don't want to say like, let's just don't stop there. Kind of go further with that. So, a lot of common roles like engineer or security officer, chief nursing officer, or physician, or whatever it is, right? The role. Sometimes people don't identify themselves in their role, right? It's just a job. And then what? Right? You're kind of screwed. And if you're looking for, like, again, patterns of behavior, people in these roles act like what? They do what? When they're frustrated, under stress, what happens, right? What's the environment they're in? How do they see themselves in that role? Do they see themselves as someone under pressure? Do they see themselves as someone who's a leader? All that kind of stuff now kind of formulates a 3D person. And then we can start to ask questions around that versus just like again, a chief revenue officer. What is your day like? What are your pressures are you under? Like, it doesn't give you a 360 view. And then people just give you basic answers. They don't give you emotional answers. They don't give you anything in depth. They just give you surface. So,
yeah. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So if a prospect could send your clients one honest message about why their marketing is not working, what would it say? How do people identify why their marketing is not working? What do they think is wrong?
So the business owners,
if they come to you and they're like, I think my marketing is not working. What are they saying why it's not working? Because most often it's wrong.
1,000%. They think it's something tactical. They think it's something like there's something algorithmic that they're just not like leaning into that they just need to do. Right. It's just like, I need to now do video and my video needs to do this. And that's how you get popping on YouTube or whatever it is. Like, they just think you have this, there's something that they're not doing the game, the algorithm, because they see what they do is they copy what everyone else is doing or someone who's popular in their kind of genre. They copy that and it doesn't work for them and they don't understand. They don't see that person was doing it for 5 years or, and they've all the things they've learned or that they've structured their profile in a way that actually helps people understand what it is that they do. They're using very simple language, all this other stuff that they just don't understand that's going on. And they just kind of copy and paste what someone else did and it didn't work.
Right. And what you also don't know, and I'm going to address you that want to copy everybody that is listening or that is watching this, you also don't know what their resources are, how many people they have working behind the scenes. You don't know what emails they're sending, how big their email list is. You have no idea what the knowledge base is. So I see this all the time. I've worked with clients who are like, put a competitor or somebody even that's not a competitor, but somebody within the same industry on a pedestal and say, I want to be like that person. And I'm like, they might be able to afford 3 full-time YouTube editors. You've got me. Like, it's not going to get there as fast as you think it is unless you're willing to spend more money, more resources. So yeah, I love that we're getting to this. And so yeah, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes to think you can get there. And so your marketing could not be working because you don't have this same number of resources or budget or, and you don't know all the strategy behind it. So when let's get some practical, when somebody downloads lead magnets and never buys anything, what is that person signaling? What are they saying?
Yeah, 1,000%. This is where I kind of live with business owners, this area right here. It's like, what does this mean? What does this actually telling you here? A lot of times what business owners don't understand is that from a consumer psychology standpoint, they are an unknown, and an unknown is a risk. and I don't take risks. I minimize my risk as much as I possibly can, right? So your job as a business owner is to minimize the risk of your product or service as much as humanly possible. That happens with information and time, right? Because those things build trust. Information plus time builds trust. That's what you need to do, right? And you need to be patient. Business owners, you need to be patient to build a relationship and build trust, right? That's really all it takes. And again, there's many reasons why people are not moving forward. One is they don't know you, you're a risk. But other ones is, I don't need this right now. I may need it 6 months from now. I may need it a year from now. I don't need it right this second, right? So you need to build what I call likability. You need to be somebody that they like, so that if they know somebody who needs what you do, they'll reference you. Or when it comes time that they need that, they think of you first. So that's your job when someone downloads a lead magnet and doesn't buy right away. Your job is to become very likable to that person. Right? And then we start from there. The mind shifts as soon as you start to say that, right? As soon as you take away from, I need to get this person to convert, to I need them to like me, content changes, tone changes, strategy changes. You think completely differently.
I like that. Ooh, this is a good takeaway. If you're watching, if you're listening, become likable. That's the key. I love it. I love it. So then if, you work with founders all the time, small businesses, what is the thing that prospects keep showing your founders that you work with through their behavior, their questions, their silence, that is misread? What are they doing that is misread? And that's, if you can alert us to that, maybe that'll help us in our own marketing.
A lot of times, a lot of business owners live on social media. That's how they grade their marketing. It's like, if I'm doing good on social media, I'm doing good marketing, vice versa. Not true, but I use it as an example because this is how they understand. What they don't get is they don't get a lot of engagement on social media, so they think things are a failure. It's not working, quote unquote. What they don't understand is that people see you. They just don't engage. If you think about your own social media behavior, there's tons of things that you see that you don't hit the like button on. You think are good, right? That just because for whatever reason, it just does not worthy of a like to you. That doesn't mean that you're not getting impressions. So one, be consistent because people see you. But also, information in a social media age is not worthy of a like. And people don't understand that. It's just information. You tell me something, I say, great, and I move on. Thank you. Right? Mm-hmm. Likes are for entertainment on a base level, and social proof kind of stuff, and social engagement. That's why when you post a photo of you and your family on social media, it gets a bunch of likes. Because that's social, right? Stuff like that, things that are entertaining. That's the stuff people like. Again, I'm not telling business owners to go do that. What I'm saying is, don't be stressed out when you don't get the like, because that information doesn't get likes and clicks. It's good for your strategy to be consistent so people know what you do and know when to contact you. So do it, but don't be mad when people don't give you 1,000 likes for your, listicle post. It's okay.
Yeah, because it's just information. You take it, and then there's other signals. If you have good educational content, maybe people will save it. I mean, that's what I do, especially with carousels on LinkedIn. I might not even like it. I'm just like, ooh, I got to save that because I've got to go back to it, or got to be able to find it, or I'll take a quick screenshot of something. Yes. And you're right. There's lots of videos that I watch that I don't follow these people, but they keep. Once I watch it, it keeps coming back in my feed. And then maybe the 8th or the 10th or the 15th time, I'm like, wait, do I not follow them? And then I'll give them a follow or a like. So it takes a while to build that trust. And 100%, I agree with you on that. There are other signals out there, and people are lurkers, everybody's got lurkers out there. People are listening. Right. It's so funny. I did a poll last week that went nowhere. And I was like, oh, I know polls work. And I looked at the poll and I thought maybe it wasn't of interest to my ICP. And so I posted another poll yesterday. And within 24 hours, there's 40 responses. And I'm like, okay, it was the wrong question. It was not what my peeps wanted to talk about. It had nothing. It was something I wanted to know.
Right.
but it was not anything they were interested in. So
Exactly.
when marketers make mistakes, guys,
It's part of it. We're all learning. That's why
we're
I like market.
testing and
I
learning.
like the market research hat, because you just like, all right, I'm going to try something different, instead of like, I'm a failure in life. I'm the worst ever. No one likes me, which is what a lot of mental people do. It's just like, oh, that one didn't work. Let's try
Nope.
something different.
No, try something different, and then try to figure out why it didn't work is helpful, so you don't make the
Yes,
same mistake again. But
of course.
it doesn't mean that you have to put something aside and say, I'm never going to do that again. So
Exactly.
what does actually listen look like? Like, walk me through how you built that into a real gen system for a small team. What does it mean to really listen?
So yeah, so my big thing is like workshops, because I'm big on practical application. You got to practice these things. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to do it. It's a whole level, another level of learning. But like, if you are actually sort of communicating well, you're listening more than you're talking, right? 70% of communication is listening, and like actively listening. So one of the biggest areas of humans, not just business owners, humans in general, because I'm going to put myself in this category as someone who kind of positions themselves as a good communicator. I had to learn to listen, but hear what somebody is saying, not just hear what I'm feeling. That's what a lot of us do. We interpret the words, and like we just reflect them back as how we felt them, not what is actually said. And emotions is a driver of all of our actions, right? People buy with emotions, justify with logic, even though we don't apply that whatsoever. But there's emotions behind what people are saying. There's a reason why they're saying it. And there are things that the words that they're saying, and there's things underneath of that they're not saying at all. And you have to kind of train yourself to look out for those, what that means. So I did an exercise, actually a workshop where we positioned ourselves as cable companies. We were Comcast or Verizon, and we were trying to figure out why people are moving from streaming and not like continuing to be our customers. And there was real customer kind of data and sentiments in there. And kind of what people were saying was like, basically they felt like these businesses were screwing them over. They were, taking advantage of them. There's no deal to be had here. They're trapped in these kind of, service models, subscription models and stuff like that. Now, like, will you take that information and like, what's driving that? Why? Is that real? Because if you look at the cable companies, they do have packages that are like allow you to kind of opt out, and you don't have to be locked into these prices anymore. And there's bundles and all types of stuff that like will address those quote unquote sentiments, but people still feel like they're getting shafted. What do you do? And that's the part. Like, that's the part that we have to kind of teach people to understand, right? Listen to the words, listen to the emotions, but there's something underneath of it. And then how do you address it? It's not always going to be improving the product sometimes. Sometimes it's just the messaging. Sometimes it's acknowledging the feeling. Sometimes it's coming across in a certain visual aspect, right? There's all types of ways to communicate. I think that's the other biggest thing that I have to train business owners on. Is like, there isn't one way to communicate. And communication is multifaceted. It's the visual plus the words, plus the background, plus the tone, plus the color, plus the, like, it's layers to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You reminded me of a frustration that I have. And I think that's probably what you're referring to, where a lot of these companies were, a couple of years ago, there were all these ads is like, hey, new customers get a new phone and they get this and they get that. And then I'm like, wait a second, I've been a loyal customer for 15 years. I don't get any of that. So they listened. One of the companies listened and they said, if whether you're new or a company or a long-term customer,
right,
you get the same deal.
Yes.
And that was huge, because I was one of those customers that was so frustrated. Like, you're punishing my loyalty.
Exactly.
And that's the feeling. So I think that listening to understand instead of listening to respond. I think that is something that we in life, I've had to learn that, especially in meetings, when there's group meetings, and that's just how my brain works. And I think a lot of you that are watching and listening might have that same, you hear somebody say something and then you're on, oh, I want to respond to that. And it works well for a one-on-one interview, because now I can respond and I can, agree with you. But when you're in a meeting and you want to listen to all the voices and there's multiple voices, you shouldn't listen to a response. You should listen to understand.
Correct.
And so I think that's a big distinction. And if if you want to learn more about that, I've had conversations with a couple of other guests on the show about that, but I think that is so important. And
Yes.
if you can do that with your clients, you're really gonna hit it out of the ballpark.
Especially in this day and age, there's not a lot of it. So that is blue ocean.
Yeah, no,
Really
true.
understand.
So Moni, can you tell me about maybe a client who thought they knew their audience, collected their real information, and discovered something that genuinely surprised them? Do you have like a little case study or something that, maybe that was like, oh, wow, we discovered something when we were doing the work or we're doing the workshop that was genuinely surprising?
What comes to mind for me is that I did a workshop last week, as a matter of fact, and I had a woman who does consulting services around improving corporate governance, and very astute, smart, sophisticated woman. And we were doing a market research exercise, actually. And what came to be was the direct feedback was, one, I don't know what you do. Like, what does, you know what I mean? Like, I hear you saying the words, but the audience couldn't grasp how she could help them. Right. And I run into this with people who do like service-based businesses all the time, especially like consultancies. It's like, you say you do, productivity improvement. What does that mean though? Right. How do I apply that? So like one of the things is like using words of like, when you see this action happen, this behavior, this sort of emotion, give me some descriptive. When this happens, you call me, right? So in a business setting, if these sorts of things happen in your business, I'm the person to call. And it was actually hard for her to like narrow down what it is that she do to apply to that. And I run into that a lot, where it's like it's sort of the same thing as my audience is everyone, right? I can do so many things, right? I do all of this. It doesn't matter, just call me in. I can help. I want to come in at this stage. I want to come in at this stage.
Yeah.
It's like, but your audience doesn't think like that. They think I have a problem. Who should I call?
Who should I call?
Exactly. If I now need a lawyer to sign contracts, I need to call a lawyer, right? It's like, I need to know the scenario in which I need to call you. So in a governance setting, if I am applying for an LLC and I need to then add another person on, is that when I call you? Like, give me the scenarios in which this happens that ends up being your messaging. It's not corporate governance, is when such and such happens, right? Like, that's how you apply those things. That's what market research will.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that was so clear. I love that. So somebody's watching, somebody's listening right now. They have leads going cold and they don't know why. This is going to be my last question. What is the first question they should ask, and where should they ask it? What is happening?
Yeah, the question you need to ask is, what's the real value they're looking for? Because it's not being fulfilled. That's why they went cold. They're not getting actual value from you. And normally it's because you have not specified enough the pain point to then get a direct piece of value. So I like a one-to-one concept. Again, people try to solve everyone's problems and make sure they leave happy and whole. You can't do it, right? Your job is to get them from point A to point B. That's it. If they want to go to C, then we can have another conversation. You let them do that. But it's one problem, one solution, and you need to be specific enough for that. So I'll use myself as an example. When I first started my business, I was trying to help business owners get to their go-to-market strategy. Too much in a workshop. Like, I had a 6-week workshop, 2 hours. People they were like, no, I don't want to sit here for 2 hours and do my go-to-market strategy. I want to get popping on social media, right? Or whatever it is. So I had to like really niche down specifically and say, hey, we're going to sit here and work on LinkedIn, right? Or LinkedIn engagement, super specific. So not social media strategy, it's LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn followers, right? Not LinkedIn newsletters, not LinkedIn company pages, just LinkedIn engagement, right? People don't know how far they need to niche down in order to make it valuable to somebody. If I define value in that, then I'll trust you to find value in the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and so on and so forth, right? So break it all the way down, get very simplistic, solve one problem and then move on to the next.
I love it. Well, Moni, this has been a very enlightening and incredible conversation. So if you are marketing, if you're a business owner or you're a marketer and you're frustrated because everything you've tried is not working, that you've thrown spaghetti at the wall and it's not sticking, think about all the things that Moni went over. Go watch a replay, go back to YouTube, or, wait for the podcast to come out. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just hit replay and think about all these different ways that you can get to the value that you're offering and to reach the audience that you need to reach by listening. Moni, how can people connect with you online? Because I think they probably will want to.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post regularly over there. If you want marketing tips, strategies, more of what I talked about here, then you can sign up for my newsletter. So you just go to MoMarTech.com. That's MoMarTech.com. Go to the bottom of the homepage and you can sign up for the newsletter there.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to put those links in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, they're already in the show notes. If you're watching this on the replay, they should be either in the comments or I'll add them to the show notes. Moni, thank you so much for being with me today on episode 175. I think that's very exciting. For those of you who are regular listeners, I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. And thank you once again to our wonderful guests, and see you all soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.